recording on. Okay, guys, so welcome everyone. Another exciting meeting by the weekly fasting group. So for those who are watching us later on YouTube, just want to give you a little background. It's a big international community based on fasting. So we fast as a group at least for 24 hours every week. So this group is dedicated to cultivating this habit of fasting once a week. And it's really an open-minded group. So some people do it dry version, water version, liquid version, whatever feels right to you. Beyond that, there's no agenda. We have vegans, we have raw vegans, we have people who are meat eaters, carnivore, so it doesn't matter. It covers pretty much all the spectrum, all the healing modalities, and we all coexist in peace and harmony and just learn from each other. That's the idea. And almost every Friday, we are trying to organize those webinars where we bring influential speakers in the fields of spiritual development, healing, different food modalities, cleansing, fasting, etc., just to learn from. We do not impose any particular view on anyone. And so if those ideas appeal to you, you will find my WhatsApp number. It's a WhatsApp group. We will find my WhatsApp number below this video. My name is Arik. I created and I moderate this group. So you're welcome to send me a WhatsApp message with your name and with your request to join the group. As for now, we have close to 400 members from virtually all over the globe. So today we have Paul Nison. Hey, Paul.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am really, really happy to have you here with us because you really speak from experience, you have an experience, you're approaching 30 years, raw food, researching different modalities, diets, experimenting. And we would like to learn from your experience. So my first question is, if you have to summarize, the main thing that you have learned about health during those 30 years. So how would you summarize it in 1 or 2 sentences?
Diet is a very important part of our health, but there's more to it than just diet. Even if you're eating a wonderful diet, if you're not paying attention to the other aspects of health, you're not going to reach your full potential. So that's a brief definition of what I've learned.
That absolutely makes sense. So Paul, tell us, first of all, I advertised your YouTube channels, both your raw food channel and your spiritual Christian Torah channel in my group. So hopefully people watched some of your videos. Now, tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get interested in health in general, in natural health?
Sure. When I was growing up, I grew up in New York and Brooklyn. And I was growing up there. I was very much involved in sports as a teenager. I was always trying to be the best I could be as competitive sports. When I was 19 years old, I started to develop some stomach pains. At that point, I was eating the standard American diet and just listened to whatever the doctors would say, but they weren't getting me better. I was getting worse. So I decided to change my diet to see if that would help. And I did. I found out about the raw food diet from Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida. And I went on a raw vegan diet and I got better almost immediately. And been better pretty much since.
Very good. Now, what was your condition before that?
I got diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, also known as ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. It's inflammation of the colon. Anytime you have a disease that ends in the letters ITIS, it means there's inflammation somewhere in the body. Doctors treat it with drugs and medication to try to control it until it gets so bad and they can't control it anymore, so they try to take out the part that's inflamed. That's what they do. And some people are willing to go that route. But for me, that was the absolute last resort. I mean, it was the first resort to get rid of the pain and take the drugs to get rid of the pain. But when I found out about all the effects, I said, no, I want to be cured. I don't want to be just controlling my illness.
Now, for the people who don't know, what kind of symptoms did you have?
So inflammatory bowel disease is inflammation of the colon, and basically you have uncontrollable bowel movements. And I had ulcerative colitis, so blood would often come out in that as well. But literally, you go into the bathroom 20 or 30 times a day. So your stomach's in a lot of pain, and the only brief relief you get from the pain is a bowel movement. And the bowel movements, again, the average person will have maybe a 15-minute, 20-minute window that, hey, I'm going to have to get to a bathroom. When you have colitis, it's about a minute or 2 minutes, that window. So I pretty much had to live near a bathroom when I was 19 years old, and it was absolutely terrible. And so that was that's what it is pretty much.
So could you say, like, honestly, from your heart, that today you are fully healed from that?
100%. As long as I eat the diet I eat, I have no issues with the situation. If I went on to the diet and lived an unhealthy lifestyle, I think the symptoms would come back.
Okay. And I'm just curious, Paul, have you had any medical examination, like recently or after you got healed from that, like confirming that you got healed from that?
Well, again, it's inflammation. So I've had medical to confirm that I don't currently have an inflammation going on in my colon, but it's not something like, you see, the medical community will say, whether it's cancer or colitis or something, once you get cured, they don't use the word cured. They say you're in remission. So it could say I've been in remission for 30 years, but according to them, and I mean, to a degree, they're right. I mean, I have this diagnosis and it can come back because we all have these inherited weaknesses. So if somebody's like smoking cigarettes and they're having lung problems, as long as they don't smoke cigarettes, they won't have lung issues. But if they go back to smoking cigarettes, they'll have lung issues. It doesn't mean the issues stayed with them all that time. It means the cause is reintroduced. So as long as I stay away from the things that were creating my issue, the inflammation, I won't have a problem with it. Medically, I have no inflammation currently right now. I test that often, my blood work, to make sure. And the only time over the years I ever had an issue was when I tried to deviate and go back to eating some foods that I was eating in the past. And then I started to recognize the symptoms and I stopped and been fine.
Interesting. Now, Paul, you mentioned blood work you are doing now. I wanted to, as a long-term raw foodist and health educator, do you see the importance of doing blood work and monitoring your
absolutely
your data? Because many people, also people in my community, like some of them, they do not believe in that. Like
I think it's really important that people so I would tell everybody, whatever diet they decide to eat, to do what's working for them. But how do you know it's working for you? A lot of people say they go by how they feel, but through stimulation, we could feel great. I know people that drink coffee and drink energy drinks and even do drugs, and they feel great because of the stimulation, but they're not healthy. So it has to go way beyond that. You need to do other things to confirm what you're doing is working. And one of the best ways is a blood test. The blood is the messenger of the body and says what's going on in the body. And it saddens me when I see people say they've been eating a particular diet for a long time, but they never get their blood work checked, because you can be creating an issue without knowing it. And by simply monitoring your blood work, you can deal with it however you want to, but at least something's going on, because often we don't see symptoms until it's pretty bad. For example, cancer. Most people don't realize they have cancer until they're in this 4th stage or stage 4. And they're like, how can this happen? They didn't get stage 4 cancer overnight. They missed the first 3 stages because they didn't feel the symptoms of cancer. But if they would have been monitoring their blood work, they could have noticed early on something's not right, and they could have dealt with it maybe during stage 1. So it's the same thing with all diseases. So I think the healthier you eat, and you don't need to do as much monitoring, but it's a wise idea, whether it's once every year, once every 3 years, or 5 years, to just look at your blood work and make sure you don't have any major deficiencies, none of your cancer markers are high, none of your inflammation markers are high, and to just make sure it's okay. And if something comes along, you'll be able to address it. So I think blood work is very helpful.
Yeah, and I would say, like, according to what you're saying, it also involves finding a good specialist who would like you, who could help you analyze your data, actually.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, the reading the blood work is another story because as a raw foodist, the results don't mean the same thing as if somebody else was taking a blood test. So they might say, "Oh, you're too high in this." Well, I might be fine. It depends. You got to know somebody who knows how to read the blood work. And you also got to know which blood work to take. Because if you go to a doctor, they just give you the basic blood work. So as a raw foodist, every couple of years I like to take a vegan or a vegetarian profile. I check my B12, I check my calcium and just make sure everything's okay. And believe it or not, in years in the past, I have found stuff that wasn't okay. And I made the diet adjustments or I made the supplement adjustments and it straightened everything out. It's a perfect example. If I just went going along and I didn't do that, then it could have been a problem, but it wasn't an issue because I saw the issue and I took care of it.
very interesting, very important. Now, Paul, I wanted to ask you, like, since you started raw food, it's been about 30 years now. Are you doing raw food nowadays the same way as you did at the beginning, or your modality of raw food has
No,
changed?
everything's changed. When I first started, I was trying to eat as much food as possible to stay satiated. I ate a lot of raw food recipes, a lot of dehydrated food. It was a good step from where I was from the standard American diet, but it's not something I or anyone should stay on long term. Pretty much it was like the raw food, junk food diet. But over the years, I've learned, and my body also adapted to get more nutrients and do better with less. I'm not overeating, if anything, undereating. So yes, when I first started out, I was definitely overeating still, even though it was raw food. And now I take special care not to overeat because even if you're eating a raw food diet and you're eating too much, it can create problems.
Absolutely. So, could you tell us briefly about different raw food modalities that you have tried throughout those years?
Sure. Well, I first got into this with something called the Hippocrates Health Institute lifestyle, which is eating a lot of sprouts and not eating a lot of fruit and and greens but mostly living foods, the sprouts and so on. Then I got into the natural hygiene side of it, which was eating more fruits and eating things more in the natural form, not doing as many juices and so on. And on eating more natural and less recipes and so on. And so those are the two places I went back and forth over the years, but I find myself now doing a combination of both. So I eat the Hippocrates diet. I love sprouts, the living foods in the sprouts, but I also include fruit in my diet. But I do eat both sides of it. I don't limit what I eat, but I make careful not to overconsume.
Mm. Okay, so how does your average food intake look right now?
2 meals a day. I wrote a book called The Daylight Diet about not eating late at night. Very unhealthy to eat late at night before you go to sleep, even when it's dark outside. So I do my best to eat earlier in the day, but 2 meals a day. The first me and I couldn't do this when I started out because my body wasn't ready to eat this little. But now I feel totally satiated with what I eat. But 2 meals a day, the first meal is some sort of fruit or sometimes I have a juice in the morning. I juice just about every day. I like to have a green vegetable juice. But the first meal is usually something with fruit, a fruit meal. And then the second meal is usually a more savory meal. Sometimes and often it's as simple as a nice big salad, but sometimes it might be a raw food recipe. And pretty much that's it. I don't count calories, but I'd be pressed to think I eat uh, between 1,000 and 1,500 calories a day, but I
Mhm.
don't count. Yeah.
Okay. And do you fast sometimes nowadays?
I love fasting. I've always fasted over the years. I've done some 1 week fast. I did a couple of years ago. I did a 30-day fast,
On
and that was
water? Water
water
fast?
only. Yeah, water only. And I went for several years fasting 1 day a week on water. For several years. Some of those
Mm-hmm.
days I would dry fast. Those days I wasn't doing any eating. So I did that for a long time. But then when I got down to 2 meals a day, I decided I'll eat every day. But I'm a big advocate of fasting.
Okay. Now, I also wanted to ask you about supplements. Are there any supplements that you take on a daily basis, regardless of your blood test results?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a video on my website about the current supplements that I take. One of the main and best supplements that I recommend is astaxanthin, which is a liquid algae. It's wonderful for reducing inflammation. It's great for people that already have inflammatory issues, but it's really wonderful for everyone in general. And I don't take it as much as I'd like, but I do take it. But that's really more of a whole food in a supplement form. It's not really a supplement, but as for supplements, I take B12. I take vitamin K, vitamin D. I take, I should have had them here. Pretty much those are the basic ones I take, the main ones.
And do you take them in the synthetic form or in a natural form derived from
I
plants?
mean, in a natural form, I'm taking green powders. I love moringa powder. I make my own moringa powder. So in a natural form, I would consider those foods in a whole foods in a supplement form. These supplements I'm taking in a synthetic form.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Now, Paul, you also had some deviations from this raw food path throughout the years towards cooked food, towards introducing some animal products. So, could you tell us what were the reasons for that, the initial reasons, and what did you learn from those experiences?
Yeah, after being on a diet for maybe 12 years, 100% raw vegan, I decided to add some cooked food and raw animal products as well. And just trying to see how much better I could do to make sure I was covering all the bases. I felt completely fine at 100% raw. I wasn't missing anything, but I wanted to see if it would take it to the next level or not. And for about a year. And when I say I ate animal products, I didn't eat animals. I just never didn't like the taste of the meat or fish or anything. I started to include raw eggs, raw milk, and some cooked food. And when I say I ate these things, I mean I'm talking like maybe 5 to 10% of my diet. I mean it wasn't much at all. And I did that for about a year. And then after a year, I got sick, very sick. And I
What
knew
did you have, Paul? What kind of symptoms did you have?
digestive issues. I felt my digestive issues coming back, and I knew after those 12 years I was 100% raw vegan, I had no issue at all ever. So I knew, I said, if I had no issue ever for after all these years, I'm going to go back to doing that. So I cut out the cooked food, I cut out the animal products, and I got better. Now, actually, I did the alternative things to get better as well, but I got better. And then I was curious to see if it was the cooked food or the animal products that was giving me the issue. So I reintroduced a little while after that cooked food, but I'm talking like not even 5% of my diet. Back into the diet, and I was okay. So I think the issue was the raw animal products, I think. But I did that for not too long. I just didn't have a desire to eat the cooked food. I was just curious to see which one it was. And yeah, and I've been 100% raw vegan since then. It was just that little time. But again, it was such a insignificant amount. It wasn't like I totally went off the wagon or something.
I see. I see. Very interesting. Now, looking back, could you say that you made certain mistakes on your raw food journey that you wouldn't make now? If you did, could you please share?
I wouldn't call them mistakes, but for example, this experiment with including the animal products and cooked food, it wasn't a mistake. It was more curiosity. But if knowing the big picture, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't have done that. But I wanted to appease my curiosity. I mean, if I know now what I knew then, I certainly what I know when I started, I certainly wouldn't eat as much as I did at the beginning. But again, I wouldn't call them mistakes. It was just a learning process. No, from a diet standpoint, I think I've been pretty good from a diet standpoint. I wouldn't have done anything different from a diet standpoint. Yeah, except like trying to get off the diet, but even curiosity got to me. So I think it was an important step to know that I'm doing the best I can do. So from a diet standpoint, no, I hadn't made any mistakes.
Interesting. Okay, guys, so we are about 20 minutes into the interview. So guys, you know, usually when I conduct those interviews after 20-30 minutes, I like to open the mics and to address the subjects we have talked so far. So guys, if you have any questions, we have nice audience. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. If not, then I will proceed with my list. I have enough. But now you have the opportunity to ask.
Okay, everybody, I'm here to answer your questions, and you're on live with me, so I'm happy to answer your questions. If not, send me your other questions you have.
If not, we will proceed. Okay, so guys, your last chance for now. No questions. Okay, very good. Now, one of your channels is dedicated to growing your own like orchard or garden, fruit trees. Could you tell us more about that and which benefits could you see for everyone doing this activity in some aspects?
Yeah, my goal is to live as self-sufficient as possible. And growing food is such a wonderful thing. And even when I didn't have much land, I would try to grow food any way I could. I'm always into sprouting, which is anyone can do anywhere. But when I purposely moved here to South Florida because I love the weather, the heat. I don't like the cold weather. And I had a townhouse, and I grew a couple of fruit trees. And I realized this is free food, the best food, and I can grow this here. So I got a little bigger place, and I currently have over 100 fruit trees. And I learned a lot about growing fruit trees and gardens. And so I created a channel where I teach people how to do it most efficiently, and it's possible. So that's what I do. And there's always food on my trees all year where I can eat something. So I don't eat 100% from my garden, but that's my goal. But all year I can get something I'm growing.
So what kind of fruit are you growing nowadays?
Well, the main fruit out here in Florida is mangoes. And when I say mangoes, people have no idea to understand there's thousands of different varieties. And we have here in Florida hundreds available to us. I personally have 60 different varieties on my property. But avocados I grow on a tree, jackfruit, you can grow star apples, star fruit, and just about all these different, they're called exotic fruits because many people never heard of them, but they've been quite common here in the tropics in South Florida for a long time. They're different fruits from all over the world. A little while ago, I had something called a sapodilla, which is also known as a nisboro. It tastes like brown sugar. It's absolutely amazing. A big variety of different fruits.
Wonderful. Okay, Paul, now I want to ask you a very important question, especially for me, but also for everyone, of course. What factors other than food, in your opinion, determine health?
Well, I mean, there's emotional, physical, and spiritual factors. In the world we live in today, the medical community is trying to control us with drugs to some degree or another. And they do that through a brainwashing and hypnotism through media and telling us visions. I do believe we need to get a good mind on the reality of what's happening in the world and who's trying to do what. So when I wake up, I have a clear mind and I know what's going on. I'm aware. But for me, the spiritual factors help me with that. I understand and know that it's not all on my shoulders, because my spiritual belief, I have a helper, and that helper helps me get through the day. But so there's an emotional idea of health, but also, to me, it all comes down to the quality of our sleep. And the quality of our sleep is going to be determined by our diet, by our emotional wellness, by our spiritual outlook, everything. When you're in the right place, you're going to get the proper amount of sleep. But to be in the right place, you need to get the proper amount of sleep. Sleep is everything. It's the answer, it's the cure, it's everything. And healing takes place during sleep. If you're eating the right diet, if you're living the right lifestyle, if you're doing the things that we're supposed to do, you're going to get the proper amount of sleep and the proper quality of sleep. If you're not, it's going to show up in your sleep. And if you're sick, you need more sleep. If you do more, you need more rest and more healing. But if you cut your sleep short, it's more important than food. It's more important than anything. If you cut your sleep short, you're asking for trouble. You can get away with many years eating unhealthy foods, but you can't get away with poor sleep. You can't. And most of the world today is on some sort of stimulation between energy drinks and coffee and other caffeine products, just trying to stay awake all day. That's a great sign they're not getting enough sleep. Sleep's another word for healing. So I base everything on the quality of sleep, and that's how I know if what I'm doing is working or not. And it's really important. And one of my weaknesses, and I think I think I got a hand on it now, is one of the worst things people can do is use an alarm clock. But because we're on a schedule every day and we got to get up and be somewhere, we need an alarm clock. So I have young children that wake me up. I have alarms that wake me up. I got meetings that wake me up. So the earlier I get to sleep, the better it's going to assure me that I'm getting enough sleep. If I get to sleep too late, I'm putting myself at risk, because I know I got to be up early. I don't have the leisure to stay in bed all day.
Yeah.
So sleep is extremely important.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And let me add to that, exercise. Like I mentioned, when growing up, I was always into sports. I'm very much into exercise, and I think it's a tremendous important part of the health picture. If somebody's eating a raw vegan diet without doing the proper exercise, I don't think you're going to get all the benefits. And I'm very much into exercise.
Yeah. So in your case, what kind of exercise are you doing?
Well, there are different types of exercise. I think some form of all of them are important. For me, it's the strength building exercises that I love and I need. The cardiovascular. The one area I am lacking in, which I know is helpful, is the stretching. But for me, the muscle building exercise and the cardiovascular are very important.
So do you actually go to the gym, or you're doing kind of calisthenics?
I grew up in a big city, and I know it's better to exercise outside in nature. Doing calisthenics in nature, doing pull-ups on the beach is much better than being in a gym with weights from a health standpoint. However, I love the gym. I've always, that's what I grew up in. I know my way around the gym, and I feel I do much better with the machines and with the weights in the gym than I do with calisthenics on the beach. It's just less distractions to me when I'm in the gym.
Okay, very interesting. Guys, do you have more questions for Paul? Because I have enough, but the priority is for people who are here. If you have any, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask. If not, I will proceed with mine.
Hey.
Okay. Okay, Paul. So now let's proceed with those questions that I sent you. Someone sent it in my group. So I will just read them one by one. We can address them. What's your age, height, weight, and BMI? That's the first question of the person.
I don't know what my BMI would be offhand. My age is 52. I'm 5'7", 150 pounds.
Okay, and then the second, how how much and what do you eat and drink? You covered it a little bit, but maybe you could extend
Yeah,
about that.
2 meals a day. And this isn't 100%, but it's closest. It's 2 meals a day. First meal would be a fruit meal of some sort. The second meal would be a savory meal, or it's just a salad. And I try to get at least one green vegetable juice in every day when I can. So, and I do it often. I got a wonderful juicer called the Namur J2 juicer, best juicer on the market. And yeah, so that helps.
Interesting. So, and then he's asking about your eating window. Like, are you practicing any kind of intermittent fasting?
Yes. And that's changed over the years. So that's one thing I've changed over the years. And there was time I ate every other day. There was a time I ate 1 meal a day. So that's something I've always experimented with. But now I eat my first meal at noon, around noon time. And then my second meal is usually around 5. So that's it. Now, ideally, I'd like to be up as early as possible and eat my first meal earlier and my last meal earlier. That would be my ideal, but because of my lifestyle, I have to do it the way I do it now.
I see. And then the guy asks about fatty fruits. What's your take on fatty fruits, avocados, etc.?
On fats?
No, fatty fruits. Fatty
Oh,
fruits.
fatty fruits. I love avocados. I have avocado trees. I love ackee. I have an ackee tree. I had some ackee yesterday, which is a fatty fruit. Anything you overeat on is going to be too much. So I don't overeat on these things. I mean, the avocados here in Florida are really big. So I find myself, though, I will say, eating less fat now than I ever had before in my life. I'm very satisfied, and you know, if I have a recipe, I might have some nuts in there. I might have a handful of nuts every now and then, but not like I did when I was younger and doing this. I used to eat a lot more fat, so I didn't plan on eating less. I just don't have the desire for as much now, but I do eat avocados and ackee and other fatty fruits.
Okay. And then the guy asks about vegetables. What kind of vegetables do you consume on a daily basis?
Well, most of the salad vegetables, the leafy greens for sure, spinach, collards, kale. And then there's a lot of fruits that we think are vegetables, but they're really fruits, like zucchinis and cucumbers and things like that. But I have carrots and celery in my juices often. So the basic standard vegetables.
Do you consume root vegetables, by the way, such as beetroot, carrots, etc.?
Yeah, I love beets. I love juicing them. I make recipes with them sometime. Carrots, I do consume, yes.
Okay, I'm just asking for myself now, because vegetable fiber, according to what you're saying, vegetable and fruit fiber does not cause any problems with your digestion nowadays, even though in the past you had this inflammation in your bowels. Is it correct? Is that correct?
It doesn't cause any problems. And I help people with inflammatory bowel disease get better. And as good as raw food is, if somebody has inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, or Crohn's disease, eating raw whole foods is not the best idea because the fiber can create a problem. So I wouldn't recommend somebody who's in an inflammatory attack from Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis consume fresh salad greens. It's too rough, too much roughage. For myself, I'm fine, but I wouldn't recommend it for people that are in a certain area. So
how would you go about that if you are having a client with this kind of condition?
Blended foods and juicing until they're healed.
Okay. Now, what's your take on spices? Do you use any spices?
I don't need them. I'm satisfied with the food, the quality of the food that I get. However, I do have recipes that I eat sometimes, and there are spices in there. But I don't eat garlic or onions. In general, I don't eat them, and I don't eat. I mean, the spices, if they're in a recipe, I'll eat it, but it's not something I need to add to my food.
And what's the reason you do not consume garlics and onions?
Well, I think they're very healthy to people that are toxic. They're parasitic. They're also anti-inflammatory. They're also they could heal people that are toxic. I think when somebody's clean, they can be more irritants than anything else. They can be an irritant to the intestinal lining and so on. So I know there are certain systems around the world that do not include garlic or onions in their diets, and I feel best when I don't. When I have them, I don't like the way they feel. I don't dislike the taste of them, but I don't even put them in my recipes. I don't do garlic or onions.
Okay. Okay. Now the next question is the guy is asking about the germ theory of contagion and disease versus the terrain model of health and disease. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, the germ theory is something that I read when I was growing up and learning about the health, that it's not real and it's not true and all this stuff, but I disagree because I live in a household with little children, and if they're bringing a cold home from school or something, other people in the house are getting it. I've seen it way too much. I think the healthier we are, the less we're going to catch something, but 100% we can catch something. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I see it in my own household. I see it in other households, and I see times where I don't catch stuff that other people do. But I definitely know that you can catch something, and I know the philosophy of the thought that no, it's just a detox and we can't catch a cold and all this. It's not true. It's not the case. Now, if you're healthy, the chances are you'll be immune to certain things, but you can certainly catch things.
Okay. Now, Paul, do you supplement B12 on a regular basis?
Yes.
And which form of B12 are you taking?
I take a sublingual. I just put it under my tongue a couple times a week.
Okay. The next question from the group is, would you say that living in the tropics would be the best solution for humankind in terms of health?
It depends. It depends your situation in the tropics where you are. I mean, I've created myself a nice little place here in the tropics. But if you're living in a place where you're not satisfied with your life, the tropics can be harsh on somebody. It's hot. So from a diet standpoint, I think it's the ideal place to live. But most people aren't eating like they're living in the tropics. Most people that live here aren't eating healthy. And so somebody could easily and purposely live in a colder environment and be very healthy. You don't need the tropics to be healthy. Is it easier to get access to tropical food? Does it work better with your body because you're in a tropical environment? Yes. But is it 100% necessary? You can experience high amounts of health not being in the tropics, but it's just much easier to do in the tropics.
Okay. Guys, do you have any questions? Meanwhile, we have a few more people who joined and then a few people left. But if you have any questions, now it's the time.
Hello. Hi, good evening.
Hey, Ravita.
Hi. I was thinking, like we had a few interviews with people with I don't know, Crohn's disease, but problems with the colon, and they said they cured it on the keto diet. So what are your thoughts? And they said, when you spoke about fruit and vegetables, they said it was problematic, hard to digest, and the keto diet, that was the answer. So what do you thought about?
Okay. Well,
actually, Paul, I would like to add specifically this guy was talking about carnivore, about eating meat, because he said that right now he sees fiber as his worst enemy. We had him a few weeks ago, so it was that.
Yeah. If somebody, I don't know when you join the conversation, but if somebody has an inflammatory attack of Crohn's or colitis, the fiber is something you want to avoid until you're better. So that's why I recommend the blended or even the juices until a person is healed. As for eating high fiberless foods, including meat and things like this, I don't think it's the overall best thing for one's health. But the key to getting better, or one of the keys to get better, is you're reducing the fiber in your diet. So you got to look at the situation, and every time somebody's suffering from something. So meat is not the best way to overcome this issue. I think they're asking for a longer time of suffering. They're not going to heal as quickly. Their symptoms might go away because they're not doing the fiber, but the ultimate problem of Crohn's and colitis is not going to go away if they continue eating a high meat diet. So you understand? So the symptoms might have an improvement because they've cut back on the fiber, but they're always going to have problems with Crohn's and colitis if they keep eating this way. It's not going to get healed completely because they're doing what's pretty much caused the problem to begin with. They're eating highly processed foods. Meat is a highly processed food, and this is a problem. So it's like where the person wants to be at, and I meet people where they're at. If somebody wants to eat meat, that's their choice. And if somebody's going to do the raw food diet and has colitis and they want to do salads, I'm going to tell them, no, don't do the salads. They say, well, what am I going to eat if I can't do the salads and I can't do the meats? You could do the salads in a blended form or just do juicing. But meat is very complex to digest. I don't recommend it with digestive issues.
Because that was not the only interview. We had a few interviews with people who cured themselves on keto and animal products. And also there's this actor, Patterson or something, that his daughter cured herself.
No, she's talking about, he's a philosopher, Jordan Peterson, and his daughter, Michaela Peterson, who cured herself of autoimmune diseases by carnivore diet. So
yeah, the carnivore diet is there's two different topics here, but the carnivore diet is not something I recommend. I think now the keto diet's not bad. The keto diet, but it's different than a carnivore diet. They're two different diets. So the keto diet is not that bad, but the carnivore diet is absolutely will give people immediate results, but they're setting themselves up for disaster. And I've interviewed Dr. Fred Bishop, who's been on a raw vegan diet for over 60 years. He's 93, almost 94, about this question specifically about the carnivore diet. And on my website, I have a lot of interviews with him talking about it. And Jordan Peterson and all these other celebrity diets that are eating the high carnivore foods, they're asking for trouble in the long run. They're asking for big trouble just because they're getting the short-term results. They're asking for big trouble. And the carnivore diet is pretty much like the Atkins diet repackaged. It's nothing new. It's been around for a long time, but it's never been proven long-term to work. It gives people short-term results, but it's not a good thing, and it's not the way we've been designed to eat.
It's better than the standard American diet. All the processed food, it's like everything is better than that. And you're saying
all diets work when you leave something out. So if you leave some of the bad stuff out, you're going to have some type of success, but it doesn't mean it's the best diet. So
could you talk about then? There are so many diets. There's the paleo and keto and carnivore. What's the difference? If you could.
Well, they have all these diets. They have their little differences of how many fat is in the diet, or how much sugar, or how much animal products in a diet. The key is to understand all diets will work because they all have one thing in common. They're leaving something out. That's why they're all going to have success stories. They're leaving something out. But you want to look at, where is it going to take you? Like how, okay, so now you've gotten better from what you got better. You're leaving something out. But how is this diet going to work in the long run? So this is something you want to ask yourself and try to.
It's better than what you've eaten before, the American standard diet, the all the processed foods, but it's just a step in the way. It's not the final stage. I mean,
Exactly,
it's just
exactly.
at a point you're at, but it's far from ideal. So you're saying, well, the raw vegan, and so you eat also sprouts and nuts and stuff like
Sprouts
that.
are a big important part of my diet. I juice sprouts. I eat sprouts. I don't eat as many nuts as I used to. I used to eat a lot more. I don't eat nuts as much these days, but sprouts I'm very much into.
I heard that nuts are not so good because they're too heavy for the. You have to soak them or sprout them. It's too heavy. They also have enzyme problem with the enzyme inhibition or something like that.
Inhibitors, yeah, enzyme inhibitors.
Yeah, I mean, then they're most people overeat on them, but you know, you could eat a little. It's better to soak them if you are going to eat them, but they're not. You know, I see a lot more problems with meat than I do nuts.
So sprouts, there's no problem, and
Sprouts are wonderful. Sprouts are wonderful and a big part of my diet.
what do you sprout? What
I sprout sunflowers. I sprout pea sprouts. And then I sprout, those are my green sprouts, and I also sprout broccoli sprouts, and then I also sprout beans, legumes, lentils, mung beans.
And
Yeah.
one last question, in terms of taste, you're saying you're having one salad a day. So in terms of taste, what do you add to the salad for it to be?
Well, I make my own salad dressings. So I could add a salad dressing. There's one I make tahini, lemon juice, and just pretty much tahini and lemon juice. So I make my own dressings to make the salads taste the way I want them to taste. But I could eat a salad just plain as well. I could just eat spinach right out of the package, and that's my taste buds over the years have gotten used to doing that.
Yeah, they refine. Yeah, I also I've also felt it, sensed it myself. You don't need so much spices, artificial spices and strong spices. You get used to the gentle, delicate tastes, natural taste. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Then we got a question in the chat. Is Mr. Paul following intermittent fasting? But we covered it. It's just that Paul is limited in his time today. So let's just cover just the subject we haven't covered yet. Now, Rue, you posted a question, but it's better if you just unmute yourself and ask that if you like.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just bring up the question.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much, Paul. Lovely to hear your talk. I missed the beginning. I apologize. I was a few minutes late. Just a couple of things I wondered. You spoke about sleep, and I can relate to, you know, having quality sleep. There's been quite a few speakers previously who have spoken about fasting and, you know, surviving, dare I say the word surviving, on less sleep, like functioning on less sleep. And I just wondered, like, the way you speak about it is, you know, that the quality of life kind of with the quality of sleep, and they equally sound very convincing in how they don't have, like, they don't need an awful lot of sleep to function. So I just wondered, it seems a little bit sometimes like which way to, is it more like trial and error, like it's
No, it's not trial and error. What it is the more you eat and the more you work, the more rest and recovery time you need. So if you're not eating and you're resting all day, you don't need as much sleep. So we need to meet our demands for sleep and not cut it short. That's my point. So the person eating the standard American diet might need 10 hours a night sleep to get enough sleep. But if you're getting up because your sleep has been interrupted, that's the issue. So if a person only is fasting and eating healthy and not working hard, they might only require, let's say, 6 hours a night sleep. Now, if they get interrupted and they're only getting 5 hours, they're not meeting their sleep needs. The average person needs a lot more sleep because of how much they're eating and how much they're working. So enough sleep for each person means you're getting up pretty much on your own. And you when you wake up, you feel rested. You don't feel like you didn't get enough sleep. You don't want to go back to sleep. You're ready to get out of bed and start your day. If that's not happening, if you're waking up with an alarm, if you need coffee to stay awake, or if you just don't feel like getting up, if you're tired all the time, you're not meeting your sleep needs. The number of how many hours a person needs is going to be different because it's based on so many different factors of how much sleep a person needs. And also, even that person, it might change based on where they are in their healing process. When a person is healing, they might require more sleep. And you got to look at the age and all of these other factors. However, you need to make sure you're getting enough. That number is going to be different for each person, but that's what I found the biggest factor to be. Most people need a certain amount and they're not getting it, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, thank you so much for responding to that. It's a big thing. I've been umming and ahhing and really on my own journey with fasting for some years now and trying different things, but I can't deny that sleep just helps me to function better and think clearly in the day, and I can be better use to others if I'm in that better that frame of mind. The other question I had was to do with the raw food. I don't eat meat. I don't really eat eggs or fish. Sometimes if egg was included in something, then I might have had that. Occasionally I might have had dairy, but I've got irritable bowel, so I can't tolerate dairy. So my body is just telling me more so than anything that the vegan lifestyle. But when it comes to raw foods, I do tend to get cold quite quickly, and I notice that these foods don't like I've been known to sort of overeat on carrots and I guess it affects my mood when I'm cold, and I don't get much enjoyment. But I also, when I have something, warm, I might feel tired after. It just seems like I'm trying to find that balance in between. But I really like what you said about the, can overeat on anything. So then perhaps maybe the answer is portion control, or I don't know, something to do with portion awareness. I wondered if you could respond to that, and also to the raw food thing about being cold and what to do there.
Sure. There's many different ways to monitor what's going on in our body. Sleep is just one of them. We can look at our digestion, we look at our blood work, we go by we feel. There's different ways to monitor it. If a person continually has symptoms that are uncomfortable, I want to make sure they looked at all these different things. Did they look at their bowel movements? Did they look at their blood work? Before we just say it's the food, are we looking at these things? Do we have a deficiency or something? As for the being cold, I mean, I don't know where you live, but I'm
in the UK. I mean,
yeah,
it's
so
fair enough. It's warm at the moment, but generally, and I've also got Raynaud's. It's not so bad at the moment, but I'm so sensitive to anything kind of cold. Yeah.
Well, just try to do everything room temperature, and get your blood work done. Make sure you're okay with that. But it's okay to have some warm water if you want to warm yourself up, or I tell people in colder environments, you could also have cayenne pepper, will heat up the body a little. But you got to look at and think about where you are. So if you're in a colder environment, especially in the wintertime, you might need some more concentrated foods, where if you're in a warmer environment, you can do the high watery content fruits and get away with it. So if you're in like a cold environment, eating watermelon might not be the best thing. But bananas are a lot more concentrated, so you're probably better off eating bananas than you are watermelon. It'll just generate heat in the body.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, I'm sorry. I just want to ask you if nothing has changed in your timetable. So do we need to finish? In like
I do have about 10 minutes, but I gotta go step away for one moment, and then I can get about 10 more
Yeah,
minutes.
sure, no problem.
So give me one moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now you can unmute yourself and you just tell me your question. I will just try to summarize it because Paul is really short in his time.
Sure. So I was facing myself a problem with the gallbladder sludge, and I did a lot of things, and in between I did 21 days of just fruit diet, and it
Okay,
vanished.
I'm sorry, Sonal. So you can just start from the beginning. Yeah, just
Okay.
try to make it short, concise, summarized, so that because we are short in time.
I had some inflammation in my gut, and I also had some gallbladder sludge problem, and it was quite acute pain was happening a year back. Somehow I got introduced to fruit diet, and I did 21 days at a stretch. I just did fruits, and my gallbladder sludge went away, just vanished. But in this entire process, and it was a long process. I went through some depression issues, some mental health issues, many other issues. So in the entire 1 year of issues, I actually lost lots of weight. I lost almost 30 kgs of weight, from 90 kgs to 60 kgs. And I have never been so low weight. I'm a 6 feet tall person, 48 years old. But after that fruit diet or whatever, my problem, this gallbladder sludge issue went away, but I never could regain the weight. So I was very much scared of going to the cooked diet, or 2 times cooked meal, 3 times cooked meal. I kept on working with 1 cooked meal and 2 fruit diets, but I could never gain weight. So recently I again went into some other mental problems and mental issues, and recently I added 1 more cooked meal in the evening, which is later evening, around 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. Now I have somehow started gaining some weight. So, and my body is looking slightly better than it was worse 2-3 months back. And I was going through some mental depression issues, so I was not able to sleep well. So sleep was a big issue. As Paul has said, the sleep has to be important. So sleep was a big problem. So my question is that with this raw diet and fruit diet, how can a person who is not at his ideal weight, who is pretty much below lower weight, how can I regain to my normal weight?
Okay, so from my experience, there's 2 ways to gain weight while you're eating a raw food diet. And first of all, I don't recommend a fruit-only diet. I just want to say that, but I think the greens are important for the minerals, and I think it's helpful. But from a lot of people that eat a raw vegan diet are underweight, or they have trouble putting on weight. For myself, what I have found, the 2 keys to success of maintaining a good body weight is getting enough sleep and weight-bearing exercises. Those are the 2 things. If you exercise, whether it's calisthenics or muscle building exercises, I use the weights, and also getting enough sleep. And I would, from what I hear, from what you're saying, I don't know if you exercise, but it didn't sound like you were getting enough sleep. But see, what you're going to do is you're going to build muscle, and you're also not, your body's healing and repairing when you're sleeping. So again, if you cut your sleep short, you're cutting your healing and repair time short. So if you do those things and you eat a good diet, you shouldn't have an issue with the weight.
Got it.
I wouldn't eat more just to put on weight. I wouldn't eat more. I wouldn't eat cooked food or just to put on weight. If somebody wants to eat cooked food, it's okay. You can eat cooked food, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go on a raw food diet to lose weight, and I wouldn't eat cooked food to put on weight. There's other ways to do that. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Paul, I personally would like to, we have about 5 minutes, and I would really like to tell people about your services and about all the links we are going to put below the video and stuff like that. So are you sure you don't have more for now? Just 5 minutes more?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. No, but no, I'm asking, like, do we have to fit? Do we have to finish in 5 minutes?
Let's say 10 minutes.
Okay, good. So then let's just cover a few more short topics. Just your thoughts. Someone is asking about urine therapy. What are what's your take on that?
I know a lot of people, they don't like the idea of hearing anything about urine, but I think from my experience, my own personal experience, and also from working with people, if done the right way, it's excellent. It's very healing, and I definitely am a big fan of it, and I think it's a good thing.
Are you practicing it yourself nowadays?
Not currently, but if I ever had a time or ever will have a time where my stomach doesn't feel well or something, I would definitely have no reservations about doing it. And I know some people do it for maintenance on a regular basis, and I have no issues with them doing that as long as they're eating a good diet. But I think it's healing, and I think it's a good thing. As a matter of fact, if somebody has inflammatory bowel disease or Crohn's disease, I think urine therapy is excellent for their healing.
Okay. And then the same person is asking how to improve kidney and liver functions.
Well, again, the cure to everything is to eliminate what's causing the problem. So if somebody's having a lack of function in these areas, it's like, well, what are you doing that's created this? And often when it comes to these two things, it's something related to diet and eating too much processed foods or too many toxins. So a fast or maybe a juice fast or something will help. Some type of detox is going to help the situation. But when you reintroduce food back into your diet, you want to eliminate the highly processed foods, because that's going to just bring back the problem if you keep curing it and getting better and then going back and forth.
Okay. And then what's your take on minimalism?
Minimalism with diet or just life? Both?
I think the person means just lifestyle. Minimalistic lifestyle.
So being successful at a raw food diet over the years is because I'm very disciplined. And a discipline is driven by several different things, the results we want or getting what we love. But for me, the key to success in everything in life is organization, being organized. And me having not too many distractions has helped me keep organized. Minimalism is very important to me. I think the world today is a big problem because people do too much of everything, including their diet. I think the less we have, the better off many of us are. And I'm a big fan of the idea of minimalism and not living outside beyond our means. So from a lifestyle standpoint, I think it's very healthy to be a minimalist if you are not caught up in the consumption mindset of the world. We shouldn't do things that are going to go against what we feel is best for us, because it's, even if we're successful, we're not going to be satisfied. But for me, minimalism is a very helpful, important process, and I absolutely love the idea about minimalism. And it's one of the keys to help a person be more organized and more disciplined. I think it's great. Minimalism gets 2 thumbs up.
Excellent. Okay, Paul, so actually I wanted to dedicate the second part of the interview to your mission, to your actually missionary work and your ministry, but we don't have time for now. So maybe if we get you another time, maybe we'll dedicate much more time to that, because I think that it's really, really important for general health and general well-being and general life. So, but tell us just a little bit about the mission of your ministry and how did you get to do that? And, how do you combine your Christian ministry with this health message?
Sure. I wasn't very spiritual growing up until I got sick and I got better. And I just looked at life different. And I was on a mission to read as many health books as possible and find out the best way to be healthy. And somebody gave me a Bible and said it's the best health book ever written. I'd already been eating a raw food diet, and in Genesis 1:29, it says raw foods, fruits and vegetables are the food for man. And there were many examples in there of people eating raw foods that live a long life, and many other health examples in there about all these different things I'm talking about. So I continue to read the Bible, and then I realized about Jesus gives us a gift. Well, God gave us the gift of Jesus to help us, and then Jesus gives us the Holy Spirit to help us. All my life, I've been trying to do everything on my own, and every pretty much belief system around the world says it's all about doing something yourself, except in the idea of Christianity in the Bible, it says we have a helper in the Holy Spirit or in Jesus himself. So I know I'm not doing this by myself. I know I have a helper helping me along the way. And when I submit to the instructions and guidelines that are found in the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, it helps me understand the choices I need to make. And then I got Jesus to help me make those choices, or to actually put them into action. And for me, I feel it's when we talk about diet, eating the highest quality foods while getting the least amount of waste left over, I put that philosophy to everything in life. What foods are going to give me the most nutrients and help me the most with having the least amount of toxins? Well, if I look at that from a spiritual standpoint, what spiritual way of living is going to give me the most help while leaving the least amount of problems left over? And I find that it's following and believing in Jesus. And so that's what I do, and that's what I teach people. And many people are getting healed by following the instructions found in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. But Jesus simply is going to help us carry those out.
Amazing. Yeah. So if you don't mind, we could schedule another meeting and dedicate enough time just to this subject. I think it's really, really important.
This particular day, I don't have much time, but any day pretty much. In a week you want to redo this, I can dedicate more hours to this, and I'm happy to talk about that and any other topic and answer more questions. If you want, you and I can reschedule something very soon.
Okay, we'll keep in touch. Now, Paul, towards the end, just tell us a little bit about your different activities in terms of, I know you have a shop where you sell different products. You have maybe you provide some coaching for people. I don't know, like whatever services you provide.
I do consultations on my website, Raw Life Health Show. I also have a member website, rawlifehealthshow.com, where people can get a membership and they can get certain videos, my best videos. And I have recipes on there. I'm also a raw food chef, and I make raw vegan foods. So I have a lot of recipes on there. And through my YouTube channel, I'm always making new videos trying to help people. And I do sell juices and supplements on my website for people that want it, but that's mostly in the United States. But I do ship the astaxanthin overseas because that's something a lot of people are seeing great benefits from.
Okay, cool. So tell me, just my last question. I know that you have this membership site. Now, people might think, yeah, but we have abundance of information. Like, we do not cover all the information we can find for free on YouTube, Rumble, and other social networks. Now, why would you say they should pay you a certain amount of money every month to get access to your videos? What's special in them?
Well, my videos are accessed all over the internet, but these videos on my website are commercial free. There's no ads. And also, they're the best of the best ones I've done. And there are some videos on there that aren't available other places. I have my recipes. I have my longer lectures. So you might find on YouTube, I have a video for 5 minutes, but you'll find on my member site, I'll have the whole lecture for an hour. So you're also getting that benefit. And I also do live Q&As, and anybody that's a member of my website, I answer their question pretty much immediately. If they have a health question or something else, I do answer them on Facebook and Instagram and so on, but it takes quite a while before I can get to them. But my community members get first access, and it's actually like $7 a month. It's less than 50 cents a day. So I know a lot of people are charging a lot of money for a service like this, but not me. I just keep it the minimum just to help people as much. But I want to give people that priority of being able to get their questions answered right away. So I think the amount people would spend on 1 cup of coffee for a whole month is a great deal for somebody. And I'm here to help everybody. So that's what I do. That's rawlifehealthshow.com.
And then what about your YouTube channel of your ministry? What kind of materials can people find there?
Well, Torah Life Ministries teaches the instructions found in the first 5 books of the Bible of how we can put it to our lives on a daily practice. And the website's torahlifeministries.org, or the YouTube channel is Torah Life Ministries. So we do daily Bible, we do prayers every morning. We do daily prayer meeting. And then on Friday nights, we have a fellowship meeting. And then I do a bunch of videos there as well. And I teach all different topics, not just health. I did write a book called Health According to the Scriptures, but I also teach about relationships. I teach about disease and recovery, and I teach about addiction recovery, and just everything related to the spiritual warfare that's taking place on a regular basis. So if somebody's having a bad marriage or a bad colon, I tell them from a biblical standpoint how they can get better.
Amazing. Okay, Paul, so 2 things. So first of all, after we finish our conversation, please send me all the links you would like to see below the video in the exact order you would love to see them. And we will also be in touch regarding our next meeting. It can be in a few weeks or even in a few months, like we'll find the time. And I would like to expand and to give for you to enlighten us on those subjects more. It's really, really interesting.
Sure, I'd love to be back, and it was great to be here today. And thank you for everyone in the community that's watching. You can contact me. I'll put the links below. My email, paul@rawlife.com, and I'm happy to meet you all. So thank you, everybody, and have a blessed day. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much, Paul. Bye-bye. And have a blessed day, everyone. Bye-bye.